What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 98 of the Best Self Blueprint. For those of you who don't already know, the mission of this podcast, very simple. Through education, inspiration, motivation, whether it's on my own or with a guest, help you move the dial towards becoming the best version of who you can be. Now, that is a blank canvas. That's not for me to decide, but hopefully some of the things that are discussed, some of the guests that we have on, will give you perspective, help you embody who you want to be and the life you want to live moving forward. So today's episode, going to keep it nice and simple. With it being the first episode of 2025, I really want to just get into what is 2025 going to look like. So what is Best Self aiming to do in 2025, events you can look forward to, things that we're trying to do just for the community, for our squad, our Best Self squad. One event in particular being the run across the state, how that's going, all the chaos that ensued as soon as that started. And then the biggest thing for today's episode is lessons from 2024 that I learned, reflections that I had, and just plans and revelations that I had moving forward into 2025. Hopefully, these are things that either you have experienced, are experiencing, or possibly will experience. And being able to sift through one person's perspective, maybe humanizing the experience, helping you heal through an experience, or giving you a little bit of perspective for an experience yet to come. But without further ado, episode 98, let's get into it. All right, let's dive in, shall we? So first things first, I just want to quickly go over kind of the vision for Best Self moving into 2025. Because I'm very excited about it. So I would be kicking myself if I didn't take the opportunity to at least let everyone who listens and tunes in know what's going on in 2025. What can you look forward to? And there are really three things. So the three things that I want to make sure I'm focusing on in 2025 with Best Self is events, the studio itself, and content. So with events, my goal is to put on 15 events this year. Some of them being a backyard ultra, so that is an ultra race. I'll get into that more probably when I announce it. If you want to look it up, it's a pretty cool event. But a backyard ultra, another ultra event called the Toughest Marathon. You run 1 mile every hour for 26 hours. The Framework series, I took a lot of time last year to go over each individual framework. I cut the fat. I realized what frameworks were the most useful, what frameworks were kind of unnecessary, what was the most useful information within each framework. And so I want to do a full weekend framework event where I just go over the meat of the material. Doing a Best Self Summit. That was something that I wanted to do last year. It fell through. I have a much better plan that I know will stick this year, so I want to do that. Stuff like a meal prep potluck, and then a few partnered events. So there are things that I'm doing with Rising Fitness, putting on an obstacle course race, doing a 5K, 10K fun run, different things like that. So there's a whole bunch of unique, fun, exciting events that I want to do. And the reason I'm targeting the events that I'm targeting is because these are events that have taught me the most. They're the events that have meant the most to me. And so if I can turn around and share those with others, that's the goal. So different events like that. Now, those are more paid events. I also want to do free events. So the idea is every single month, I want to do a free event, a free community event where I educate whoever shows up on some type of health and wellness practice. I'll probably bake in more fun things like doing like a field day, a fitness field day, stuff like that. But really, I want to take advantage of free events as an opportunity to really do good in the community, make an impact in the community for people who might not have the money to drop on a private coach or might not have money to budget going to a bunch of boot camps or classes. So these would be things for people to just at least dip their toe in the water of what it looks like to get coaching. So whole bunch of ideas for events this year. Definitely keep your eye on social media. That's usually where I'll announce it. I'm planning on bringing back, I tested out a weekly newsletter last year. There were some good things that came from it. A lot of it seemed to fall on deaf ears, but that might be something I bring back. But definitely keep your eyes on social media, YouTube. Keep tuning into the podcast. This is where I'll let everyone know what's going on. But whole lot of things to look forward to with events. Next up, with the studio, really the idea for the studio is to be a hub for the Best Self community, in which we have coaches that have a whole variety of disciplines, from fitness to nutrition to massage therapy to energy healing, a whole bunch of modalities that have their own internal network and self-referring system, so that whatever you might need, whatever you need assistance with, we have a coach who has expertise in that field. So more coaches. This year I'm going to put more classes on the schedule. You can look at, we're going to do a class series for core strengthening, cardio fitness, just a whole wide variety of things, stretching and recovery. So I don't know that I'll do those every single week for the whole year of 2025, but we'll do 4 to 8 week class series on specific aspects of health and wellness, because the idea is for you to be self-sustaining so that you don't have to drop hundreds or thousands of dollars on a coach. You learn these skills and can then apply them in your own life. Now, the third thing is more equipment. So something that I'd really like to do moving forward with the studio is rent it out for private use. So I'm looking at getting infrared panels, bringing in compression boots, having everything you would need, like a So-Right, foam rollers, lacrosse balls, to do an optimal recovery day. So you get the infrared session. Maybe we'll have a grounding mat. Everything you could possibly need. You rent out the studio for 60 minutes, private use, and we'll have the optimal protocol printed on a sheet for you to just roll through and do on your own. But I'd like people to have kind of that safe haven, that spot. The best way I can put it is when I come in here and I do my stretching or my meditating or my gratitude practice, if you've been in the studio before, it has a very calming energy. And a lot of that is thanks to Sherry Cope. She's a yoga instructor here. She set up this space and she put a lot of effort into making sure that it holds the right energy. And so I want people to be able to experience that more. So more coaches, more classes, more equipment, just enhance the studio overall, make it more used and make it more useful for everybody that's part of the community. And then the third part is content. This is something that I'm really getting more and more passionate about. So I've dropped a few videos about the Run Across Wisconsin prep. I'll get into how that's going in a second. But the idea is just to give people more. So every week from the release of this podcast moving forward, every single week there will be a podcast. I think the plan more or less will be to have 2 episodes a month be solo and 2 episodes a month be with a guest. The idea is on Instagram, I'll be asking, what topics do you want me to cover? What questions do you want me to answer? And the more you engage in that, the more you'll get the content that you want. So speaking of, if there is a topic you want me to cover, if there are questions you want me to answer, please put them in the comments below. I will read them. I will act on it. I'll cover that stuff. But I want this to be a back and forth. I want to know what it is that you're struggling with, what it is that you want to learn more about, how it is I can help. So let me know. So weekly podcasts, daily motivation. That is a standard I'm holding myself to every single day, whether it be on Instagram or YouTube. Those are usually the 2 that I'm active on. I will give you that daily dose of motivation and or education whether it be through a post, a story, a reel. Every single day there will be something on there just to elevate you a little bit. And same thing with that. If there's reels that you want to see, whether it be workouts that I do, stretches that I do, nutrition, sleep, whatever it may be, just self-development in general, let me know. I'll throw that stuff in there as well. And then the one that I'm very, very invested in right now is I want to start doing more documentaries. So these will be probably few and far between because it takes a lot of time to develop the story, understand what message we're trying to get across. But the first documentary that's dropping, and this will be a great transition point into talking about it, is the Run Across Wisconsin. There is so much going on with this behind the scenes. The storyline, of course, as life will bless me with in the best and worst ways, the storyline has been developing in crazy ways, but I really think that documentaries, having a good, whether it be anywhere from like 40 minutes to 2 hours, where we tell the story, we show the passion and excitement around cultivating a big goal, something that scares you, something that you don't know that you can do, and you have to throw yourself in and dive into the deep end. The story that comes from that, the development, even 2 months in, I can already feel all of these lessons hitting me. You get to learn about the people and the example that they're setting through these endeavors. And then the event itself, whatever the endeavor is that the person is pursuing. So with the Run Across the State, we'll be bringing you along the whole way, from footage that I've already gotten the past couple months of life events that have gone on, training, getting ready, dealing with the self-doubt, understanding why I'm doing it through the event itself, and then a little bit of the aftermath as well. A lot higher quality content, a lot just juicier content, and that's something that I want to provide more because I'm very lucky that I know a lot of inspiring people who do a lot of inspiring things. And I want to highlight those people because the lessons that others can extract from that, again, a lot of this is I took a step back and I've thought about in the past decade, what are the things that have excited me the most? What are the things that have catalyzed my growth the most? And how can I turn around and give that to other people? And documentaries have been a big source of inspiration, a big source of lessons learned, a big source of mentorship. These people are mentoring me on how to run an ultra, how to go after big goals, how to level up oneself in the pursuit. And so I'm really hoping that I can be another avenue of that. I can produce these documentaries as part of a team of really talented people that are already helping me facilitate and get ready to put on the documentary for the run. But how can I throw my hat in the ring as a source of inspiration in that? So if you couldn't tell, that's something that I'm very excited for. But that's a good transition into the next thing, which is the Run Across Wisconsin. There is so much going on with this. So the first thing is the fundraiser. If you don't know about it, I've always tried to do these crazy things for something bigger than just myself. It is very selfish. I get a lot from it, don't get me wrong. But I like the idea of the shiny toy syndrome where it's, hey, I'm doing this crazy thing, draw on the eyeballs, and then redirect them to a charity, a fundraiser of some sort, a community project going on. And that's exactly what we're doing for this. I'm calling my shot. I'm raising funds for Best Self so that I can put on more community events for free, higher quality community events for free. And it's the goodwill of others and the support of others. I want to bring the community together so those who have funds to spare can help facilitate educating the community, bringing everyone together, networking, learning the names and humanizing the other people around us in this area that are in that pursuit. So 80% of the funds coming in will go to that. and 20% of the funds coming in are going to go to the Little Warrior Foundation. I still have yet to find a cause that I think is better than funding research for a rare form of cancer that affects so many children, takes their lives, absolutely obliterates their quality of life, as well as just the stress that it puts on the family, the stress it puts on the people around them. And so helping push that forward and minimize the negative impact that that has, any small part I can do in that, I want to do. So 80% of the funds going towards free community events, 20% going towards Little Warrior Foundation, and I'll link the GoFundMe in the description. Any amount helps. And if you don't have the funds to help out, share it with people. Please, please, please. This is something that we're already inching close to $1,000 raised. I think we're at $720 raised right now. I want to see $25,000 raised. I know that's super ambitious, but that money will go towards so much good in so many different ways. And so any way you can help, I very much appreciate it. But the fundraiser is the first part. The second part is the content around it. So doing the recaps, showing you the training sessions, talking about the ups and the downs, the self-doubt and overcoming it, the community of bringing in a group of people to make this dream a reality, all of the content that comes around that, the documentary that will be dropping later this year. Hopefully that provides a source of inspiration, education on going after big dreams. I have found, and I'm sure this isn't true for everybody, but I have found that there are a lot of people that have big dreams that are smothered from self-doubt, from fear, from not knowing how to do it, and then just life getting in the way. And so proving to people that if you're intentional, this life can be this crazy stack of big dreams accomplished. And hopefully that documentary and the content that I put out will help show that. But that's something I'm excited for. We have an after party planned. So the run itself is going to take place from May 18th to May 23rd. On May 23rd, that's a Friday, I'm hoping I can plan it out so that I get done around 4 p.m. I'm getting to the lakefront, the Pierhead Lighthouse. It's right by Discovery World, downtown Milwaukee. And there's a park just south of Discovery World. And we'll be doing an after party there. So we'll be blasting music. We'll have some food there. And it'll just be a good time. It'll be the celebration and culmination of so many different things. The fundraising for these projects, the content that's been put out, all of the lessons that have come through. The after party is a celebration of all of it. So that'll be going on. Definitely look into that. Definitely be a part of that because it's going to be fun. You'll see me beat up and banged up and still probably having the time of my life. But to get more into what's been going on with the run or the prep for it, I'm supposed to be entering phase 3. So just getting done with phase 2, entering phase 3. Well, to take a journey back to the start of the prep, the idea was to have a 24-week camp, which was broken down into 4 phases, and then have a 2-week taper. The first week, perfect. Training was perfect. Recovery was perfect. Everything was perfect. And then going into week 2, I got hit with a really bad flu cold hybrid. And I was floored for an entire week. I did not work out for an entire week. I barely ate. I slept all day. Felt like I got hit by a truck. I was just out. So that takes out week 2. Week 3, start getting back into it a little bit. And then that weekend, I left for Mexico for a week. That was supposed to be episode 100 of the podcast, was hanging around a group of my closest, oldest friends sitting on a rooftop at a villa in Mexico at an all-inclusive resort and celebrating and going over a whole bunch of stuff. Well, day 2 in Mexico, I got wicked food poisoning. Like, I've had really bad food poisoning before, and it was close to the worst food poisoning I've ever had. I could not eat or drink anything for over a day. I couldn't leave the hotel room because I'll spare the details, but I had to be close to the bathroom for like every 5 to 15 minutes for a day. And that completely took me out for a good few days. Fly home, that was a week total. So yeah, 2 days of travel, 5 days there, more or less. And then the night after I got back, I pinched a nerve in my neck. So I wasn't able to really like rotate or do any exercises for that. So by the time phase 1 was supposed to be over, I had only gotten 1 good week of training in. Had the flu, had food poisoning, pinched a nerve in my neck, and then right as things started feeling better, that was when the holidays came. And I was well aware that during holiday season, I was going to kind of lay a little bit low because my brother and his family were in town from Florida, and I deeply cherish the quality time that I get with family. So just being as present as possible and devoting as much time as possible while he was here to Christmas and family time and just relishing in all that is being present with family. I made very sure that that was the priority. Still got a couple good workouts in, but yeah, so essentially from November 18th, which I think was the first day of the prep, the training camp, all the way through the end of December, it was pretty trash in terms of training, in terms of nutrition, in terms of recovery, all of it. So I went to Ryan, who, if you haven't watched any of the content around the prep series, Ryan is the one, he owns Rising Fitness with his lovely wife, Caitlin, and he is the one who's spearheading the strength training portion of my prep. He is probably the most intelligent coach I've ever come across in terms of just understanding the mechanics of fundamental strength training. And so to have him in my corner helping coach me through this is an invaluable resource. So shout out to him. Definitely, if you're in the area, check his gym out, check him out, not in a weird way, in a professional matter. So I went to him and basically talked about just restarting from phase 1. So in terms of the running, keep the mileage where it's at because my cardio still felt really good. But in terms of the strength training portion, starting from square 1 because that's basically where I was at that point. So right now, like I said, I'm supposed to be wrapping up phase 2, getting into phase 3. Just today, Monday, January 13th, I'm starting phase 2. So this is where part of that self-doubt creeps in, wondering, did that month of chaos hold me up? But very quickly going back to the understanding that an event like this is grit as much as it is preparation. It's a lot of preparation, and I still have a lot of time to make up. I don't go until May, so I've got 18 weeks until I run. But dealing with the self-doubt, dealing with those insecurities and questions of, was that the difference? And having to overcome that is one of the most powerful lessons in these training camps. It's being able to navigate that mental jujitsu and understanding the power that comes from being able to actually overcome the negativity, the battle between the ears. And so that was kind of the first real battle, was getting back into it, seeing in an ideal world, which never comes to fruition in a training camp. But in an ideal world where I was going to be, and in reality where I'm at, and just understanding that I have the ability to take a step back, look very logically at, okay, from right now until game day, what is required? Where am I at? Where do I need to be? Okay, let's put together a logical plan. Let's understand what went wrong over here, which was a lot of different things. And then moving forward, just take the emotion out of it for a second. Am I still okay? Yeah. Am I still in a spot where I can make it happen? Absolutely. And so that was one of the most powerful lessons so far, despite the holdups, despite all of the getting sick and the not really getting injured, but being prevented from exercising from the pinched nerve. Just because things pop up doesn't mean it's time to throw in the towel. Just like in the 100-miler, 8 weeks before the run, I fractured my foot, a stress fracture in my foot. The time that I was supposed to be running the most, I couldn't run. And so navigating all of that. But a lot of the self-reflection as part of this turned into me really just adopting the phrase clean slate. So no matter what happened in 2024, starting in 2025 with the prep, this is what matters. Clean slate, as if that never even happened. Just objectively, this is the new baseline. Where am I at? Where do I need to be? How do I get there? Put my head down and go. And a big realization I had was this was exactly what needed to happen to wake me up to the fact that I was not following the most important reason I was doing this, which is in every other training camp I've had, I've very much adopted the mentality of dark soul, grit my way through it, David Goggins-esque, and it works. It's a very powerful fuel source. But then I was listening to Alex Honnold in a documentary he was in talk about a conversation he had with his wife where he had a very similar mentality going into the big projects he worked on. And his wife asked him the question, what if you still went and trained with that intensity, but you had fun? And I think I fell very quickly into similar patterns at the very beginning, November 18th. And within the first week, I fell back into that like grit mentality. The world is against me. I got to prove myself. And the whole reason for doing this project was, can I have fun? Can I take the happy-go-lucky mentality I had when I was training for the sake of training and sustain that when I'm in a really intense training camp? And I failed miserably at that in the first month and change. And so this clean slate gave me the opportunity to reset and be intentional about when I go into the gym, it doesn't have to be a grind. It doesn't have to be this battle and this war going on with every single workout. I love fitness. I love the different aspects of moving my body, and bringing that into it has given me a much lighter fuel source, and it feels a lot more authentic. It feels like I'm going with the flow of a river instead of trying to bash up against the current. And that's a really exciting revelation to have, is that in the pursuit of these grandiose goals, these extraordinary feats, I can still have fun. I can still enjoy the process. And yeah, there are going to be days, there already have been days, where I don't feel like hitting the weights, where I look at the mileage on the chart and think, oh man, that doesn't sound fun. But creating the space before I enter the gym, before I start the workout, before I go on the run, to where I remember, I'm doing this to have fun with the process. I'm doing this to be very present and not try to fast forward to the run itself. And to be aware of all the lessons being presented in the good times, in the tough times. And so that's a really useful piece that's already presented itself early on in this camp is clean slate. And I'm taking that not just as a lesson for starting over for the run. I'm taking that as a lesson for every day. Every day when I wake up, clean slate. Whatever went wrong the day before, if there was anything that popped up that didn't go my way, if there was anything I knew that I was supposed to do that I didn't do, clean slate. Time to stack the evidence. Time to remember all of the beautiful things about life and all of the reasons to be grateful. And to each their own, but one belief that I have is God's gift to us when we enter this world is unlimited potential. Our gift back is to realize that potential, at least to the best of our ability. And this clean slate mentality is my best effort to understand that every single day, if I start with calm waters and clear skies, if I start with gratitude, if I start with realizing the abundance that the day ahead can present, it equips me much more effectively in my pursuit to reciprocate that gift to God, the universe, myself even, of going after all that the day can offer. And so that brings me to the third topic of conversation in this podcast, which is lessons from 2024, reflections that I had, ideas for 2025 moving forward. So something that I always do, and I've talked about it on the channel, is at the end of the year, every year, for an entire day or as much of a day as I can manage, I do a full day of solitude. And this is going through all of my journals from 2024. It was 62 pages of journals that I read through, going through all of my posts on social media, going through physical stuff. So like going through my closet, getting rid of clothes that I don't use, going through my phone and looking at pictures and like videos, deleting ones that just don't seem significant, going through the apps that I have downloaded and deleting ones that aren't in alignment, just doing a full energy audit. Who did I spend time with? Do I feel those relationships are in alignment with who I am and who I'm becoming? Do I feel I'm adding value in these relationships? Do I feel I'm being authentic in these relationships? Just a full day to recap as much as I can and cut the fat down from the past year. Then I do a gratitude practice. So meditating, journaling, visualizing, reflecting, and just kind of sitting and thinking in general about what I'm grateful for, the lessons I learned, the ups, the downs, and all of the beauty that presented itself in the past year. And then I look ahead to 2025 and I look at, in each area of my life, what does success look like? What does fulfillment look like? And alignment. How can I be more present? How can I be more authentic? And so a few of the biggest lessons looking back at 2024, I think the first one is just quite simply know thyself. So when I initially sat down and thought about the year 2024, it felt dull. It felt very detached. And there are a lot of reasons for that. But one of the main ones is when I think about the times that I feel the most alive, present, aligned, fulfilled, at peace, all that stuff, it's usually when I'm pursuing a big goal, when I have a good daily practice, meaning a good morning routine, a good nighttime routine, and I'm checking the boxes that I know I need to check consistently. I'm connecting deeply with others, and then adventure. So that could be travel, learning new things, trying new things. those things to me create the most everything I said before. In 2024, I fell off track on, I really didn't pursue any what I would have perceived to be big goals. I didn't go on what I perceived to be any big adventures. But what's funny about it is when I looked back, I went to the Grand Canyon and did a 27-mile hike from rim to rim with a group of amazing people. I opened up the Best Self Studio, something that has been a dream for mine for a long time that I didn't think was going to be a reality for at least a few more years. There were so many things that were huge life accomplishments and beautiful experiences that got lost in the muck that I accumulated throughout the past year. And so this know thyself, I believe, was the difference maker. It wasn't that I wasn't doing amazing things. It wasn't that I didn't have these beautiful experiences. It was because I didn't have a consistent morning routine for a lot of the year. It was because I was neglecting the energetic depth and presence in conversations with people that lights me up. It was these little pieces that stacked very high that blocked a lot of the beautiful things. And so moving into 2025, one of the big things about what I talk about, know thyself, is I am committing to getting back to doing the little things the right way. Yes, I still have big goals, running across the state, putting on all these events. There's a lot of other stuff as well that will pop up as the year goes on. I still have those big dreams and big goals, but it's in the little things. It's being present for the little things that I believe I fell short on, and that clouded so much other stuff. Another thing that popped up is, shout out to my friend Kat. She's probably the most common guest I have on here. Her and I had a conversation recently about your dharmic path versus your karmic path. And although it wasn't something I really realized in my day of solitude and reflection, I've been so focused on developing my dharmic path, which this could be entirely wrong, but my perception when I heard that was your dharmic path being you building the life you want to live, and your karmic path being at peace with yourself and the energy that you've put out into the world, and just kind of the more like internal aspect of it. So I guess I view it as dharmic being the external building of the life you want, karmic being the internal energy that you're holding. And I've spent so long, a good 4 or 5 years, devoting the building to the dharmic path, building up best self, building up the relationships that I know will be the most aligned and authentic, setting up my life in a way where I can experience all of these beautiful things. But along the way, I lost the building, the intentionality of building the karmic progress. Back a while ago, I was doing regular spiritual practices of Native American sweat lodge ceremonies, sound baths, float tanks, like sensory deprivation tanks, more elaborate meditation practices. And with each of those experiences, it progressed my karmic path. It allowed me time to really sit with the energy that is being held within me. And for whatever reason, my gaze was swayed to the more physical, tangible side of reality. And I wasn't as intentional about the karmic side. And I had a couple experiences in 2024, and shout out to the coaches who helped me along the way with those, it showed me the neglect that I've had for really diving into the, as minor as they can be, the inner traumas, the aspects of my shadow self, the toxic parts of my ego, the patterns that I have expressed in terms of my thoughts, my speech, my actions. And so that's something, the dharmic versus karmic, they both hold a lot of utility in terms of continuing to be intentional on the growth and the pursuit of evolving those aspects of life. But I think 2025 is going to be a year for me to probably prioritize far more the karmic side. And so for you, maybe that's something for you to think about is, have you done a lot of internal work, but maybe haven't spent a lot of time developing the external side of it? Or are you like me? Did you fall in the camp of you spent so much time and effort putting the building blocks in place around you, but maybe you neglected, and I would call it the spiritual elevation. So a great YouTube channel that I found it's called The Alchemist. So it's a woman. I wish I could remember her name, but I'm blanking on it. But you'll find her if you look up The Alchemist on YouTube. She was talking about, you feel the most spiritually like dead or detached when you do the work to elevate yourself spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and then you fall back into old patterns and habits that are below that frequency. And that's what I believe I've fallen into. And if you have also been experiencing that, like here are the main symptoms I've been experiencing. The first one would be not being as present. So even if I'm intentional about being present, the energy isn't quite there in experiences that I know, we'll call it should be or would normally be. The motivation to go after things was kind of dulled down. Daily energy just wasn't necessarily there. And I think it's because a few years ago, I did all of that work to elevate my frequency, and then I fell back into old patterns and habits that kept me at a frequency below what my highest self knows is available. And so that's one of my biggest focuses, is not only for myself, because it is such a better experience being attuned with that highest frequency. But also, I'm a big believer that the frequency you're living at affects everyone that you come into contact with to some degree. And so both selfishly and selflessly, one of my main priorities is going to be devoting time and effort to that karmic elevation. Now, how do I do that? Some of it is making amends for neglecting those things, or I guess falling into those habits and patterns. A lot of it is the meditation, the journaling, the taking time to truly understand why I fell into those traps or fell below kind of that standard. But yeah, that's one of the things. And then another one that really I think it holds very true right now for me is the quote that I heard on Chris Williamson's podcast, Modern Wisdom. The magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. And there are a lot of things popping back up at the beginning of 2025 that were very present in my life at the beginning of 2024. The two main ones that I'll get into are finances and a sense of a bit of loneliness as it pertains to being single. So with finances, part of that dharmic path was I wanted to build my life in a way where how I make my money is far more important than how much money I make. And I believe that's true, because I think the energy of what I'm doing to get that money holds itself in that money that's being given to me, whether it's physical dollar bills or just a number that gets entered into my bank account. But the other side of that is with the impact that I want to make and the quality of products and services that I want to deliver, there's a belief that I've held around money that needs to be challenged and changed so that I'm not trying to push it away, but I'm allowing it in as part of the greater service to everyone I'm trying to make an impact on. So that would be one of them, is just battling the work that I was avoiding, is understanding that, well, there are a whole lot of things that I guess I won't waste time getting into, but finances was the first one. And then the second one being the work around understanding what might be holding me back from dropping the emotional walls around finding a significant other. So there was a couple fantastic sessions that I did with a couple different coaches that really showed a lot of the reasons why I'd be holding a wall up. And in 2024, I mean, to really, maybe this is TMI, but hey, whatever. In 2024, it was the first time in several years that I even let myself open up to the idea of going on dates, meeting new people, and I did just that. I went on first dates. I got to know some pretty great people, but at the end of each first date, there was that swell of old patterns, thought patterns that dissuaded me from really pushing the chips in. And so the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. So the work that is obvious that I've been avoiding is in core beliefs around finances and core beliefs around whether it be deservingness of a significant other, what that means for my life. That is the work I've been avoiding. And I believe that in 2025, I will find some amazing magic in doing that work. And so that's a very roundabout way for me to challenge you, whoever is listening. What is the work you're avoiding? What is the magic you're hoping to find, but it's been this crazy thing that no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to get it. Whatever that magic is that you're looking for, look at the other side of that coin. What work are you avoiding? What patterns, whether it be thought patterns, behavioral patterns, what is the work that is blocking the magic? That's something that I'm putting a lot of invested thought, time, energy into, is going right at the work I'm avoiding. And so I challenge you to do the same thing. And that leads me into the last piece of this fantastic little puzzle, which is a quote by Melanie Mackey that this is probably the quote that has resonated the most with me since I heard it and still holds true, which is, decide what kind of life you actually want. Then say no to everything that isn't that. We live in a world that makes it so easy to get distracted, whether that be responsibilities, obligations, the technology we have, phones, laptops, social media, video games, all this stuff that is constantly berating us with things that hold so little value and things that are not in alignment with the life that we actually want. And so what I'm setting the standard of for myself in 2020, and what I'm going to also challenge you to do, is take some time, decide what kind of life you actually want. That is every aspect of it. Your home, the car that you want to drive, the clothes that you want to wear, the hobbies that you want to do, the career path you want to take, the friends you want to be around, the places you want to go. Decide what kind of life you actually want. What does that look like on a daily basis, weekly basis, monthly, yearly? What are you ideally trying to build? Who do you want to be? What life do you want to have? Actually, not because someone says you should, not because this influencer or guru is saying that this is the path. Critical thinking is paramount in this. What kind of life do you actually want? Then, and again, I'm so passionate about this because this is something that I've fallen short on recently. Say no to everything that isn't that. Everything that isn't that. Simplify your life. Break it down into the most essential components that will make you feel fulfilled, aligned, and at peace. So a good way to think about this is a guy named Brian Johnson, not Liver King, a different Brian Johnson, who is one of the most, if not the most, studied human beings in human history. He talks about every nutrient or every calorie fights for its life. Something around that. That's paraphrasing. But every calorie fights for its life. You want to find, nutritionally speaking, the most nutritionally useful and effective calories to put in your face hole and chew and swallow and digest and use. And it's the same thing with life. Understanding every single thing that's fighting for your time and attention, all of that needs to go through this trial of what is the most useful, what is the most optimal. And in 2025, those are the things that I'm focused on. I'm focused on facing head on that karmic path. I'm focused on facing head on the work that I've been avoiding. And I'm focused on facing head on all of the things that aren't the life I actually want and saying no to those things. So hopefully those are things that you can buy into as well, because I know I'm excited to see what comes out on the other side of it. And I know that for you, if you follow in that, whatever lessons it is for you, it doesn't have to be finances, and if you're single, trying to find a significant other. It doesn't have to be pursuing crazy ultra endurance goals. It doesn't have to be what it is for me. But the universal truth in this is the fulfillment, the alignment, the purpose, the peace that comes from these things. So hopefully you'll buy in. Hopefully you'll stick to it. And hopefully we as a community, this Best Self Squad, will all level up like crazy in 2025. That is my hope for everyone who is part of this community. So I think I will leave it with that. If you've made it to this point in the video, as always, thank you so much. Hopefully this added value. If there was something you took away from this, I want people to really start engaging more in the YouTube videos, in the social media posts. Comment below, what is something that you're committing to do in 2025? What is a lesson from 2024? What is something that amped you up, inspired you, educated you, motivated you about this video? Comment below. Make sure to like. If you aren't subscribed, definitely hit that button and stay tuned for more, because there's going to be a lot more coming. Thank you, everybody, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace!